are being programmed.
Are you sure about that?
Hello, welcome back to the No Way Jose podcast. This is your host, Jose Galison. Today we are joined by the great William Ramsey. We've had him on the show a handful of times. I'm sure we'll have him on more to come. He's wrote a spate of books, great researcher. I'd like to consider him a friend, and we're here on unique times. We are here to cover The Manchurian Candidate, which was a book and a couple movies. And obviously, it's kind of a concept within our realm. It's kind of, we're in a weird time where things are surreal right now. I know this goes paywalled, so when this comes out, it might be a little bit weird, but I still think it'll make sense. Today, on the recording of this, Charlie Kirk was murdered live. It's recordings. It's wild, but I mean, with us talking about Manchurian Candidate, obviously we know nothing yet. But I mean, even with that, there's other things in the news. We have this recent Ukrainian killing, and the murderer himself is already claiming MK Ultra type claims. I mean, this topic today cuts the root of a lot of this. In most parapolitical books, when they talk on MK Ultra, the like, usually it kind of starts around the lore of the Manchurian Candidate. And we're cutting through that today, and I don't know, maybe it'll resound by the time this comes out, because we are in odd times. But that's enough of that. Let's get William in here. What is up, my friend? We are living in odd times. So yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Like I said, I mean, it's weird not to mention it considering the topic, but obviously we know nothing. I think as of right now, there's been, one suspect that initially they thought might be the guy, and that's kind of seems like that's, at least they're not going with that now, but it literally just happened hours ago. So I don't know. I'm going to be covering, I'm going to have Ken Silva on my show tomorrow, the morning show. So my live show. So I'm sure we'll probably have a little bit more by then, but man, just wild times. But I don't know if you have any thoughts, if you want to anyway draw the connections to Manchurian Candidate, because that's what we were talking about. But I mean, there's plenty of other current examples. I think I forgot to mention Ryan Routh. He's also seemingly preparing himself for some sort of insanity argument with some of the craziness coming out of the legal ordeal over there lately. I've covered that a little bit on my show, but yeah, I mean, I guess I'm kind of hemming and hawing enough. I don't know if you have any thoughts. Otherwise, we can kind of just go ahead and get into the Manchurian Candidate. Maybe you can tell us why this is sort of relevant. I've already laid that out, but maybe you have more thoughts to set out for it.
There's a lot going on, so you have to have sympathy for the family of Charlie Cook, 31, just a guy who's into free speech. Mm-hmm. So if you're a free speech advocate, on that regard, you have to kind of rue the day this day. It'll be a day of infamy forever. That somebody shot him in the neck, and a young guy who never advocated violence. Really wasn't,
Yeah.
Just a talker. So I think that's important to remember. And
Yeah.
we're kind of still in the kind of fog of
Yeah.
these assassinations and other assassinations, actually, to this day. You mentioned Ruth. We don't know that much about him. Some people have tied him to the State Department. We have Crooks, which we don't know much about. Luigi Mangione,
Yep.
Nikita Kassab, who was a literal 09A9er member who wanted to kill Trump and killed his parents. You had recently Robin Westman, the trans assassin in Minnesota, to Carlos Brown, who said that he had material in his body. So,
Yeah.
he's either prepping for the insanity defense or is insane.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
don't know
it
his
sounds
real
ridiculous, but who knows? Maybe they are MK ultraing inner city blacks or whatever, homeless. I mean, they have a history of targeting the downtrodden populations. Don't get me wrong, I kind of doubt that, but I mean, it's not outside the MO of the intelligence agencies.
Not at all. Not even
Yeah.
at all. And then you have this guy, Shane Tamura, who went to BlackRock, shot people from the NFL. I think he said that he had disappeared. So strange things. And even going all the way back. So I used the fictional elements of Manchurian Candidate film, the original one that was released in 1962. I used that as a device to kind of help people understand what's happening in the present day with this kind of flurry of crazed assassins going after the president. And now we don't know what's going on with Kirk, but it seemed to be a kind of a sophisticated operation. There were other people arrested on there that were making a bunch of noise as a distraction. So a lot of times, and even in the JFK assassination, which we're coming up on the anniversary soon,
Yeah.
he was assassinated. I think he was killed at about 1:00. But before that time, there was a epileptic seizure right in the middle of the street. So all the cops there, and then the paramedics took care of this guy, took him to the hospital. He disappeared, and they never found out his name. So we kind of cleared out the area.
Can't help but notice tomorrow, September 11th, too. I didn't even notice until my daughter mentioned it. I was like, whoa, that's odd timing. I don't know. Maybe it's just my pattern recognition, but I've noticed past week or two, or actually past week, there's been a pretty big story rehashing from an old story of kind of the old art students that were looking into the 9/11, or not 9/11, kind of looking to federal buildings shortly before that particularly came from Israel. So yeah, I don't know why I initially dug into that, but point being is just the timing, I don't know. It's hard not to notice these patterns in this realm. You never know to what degree am I just giving too much umbrage to things, but I mean, dates matter, especially. And it always seems to be anniversaries, and sometimes they seem to have a day off, because there's a few things on April 19th, there's a few things on April 20th. Then I think there's also some things on 10th as well, September 10th and September 11th. I don't know offhand, but I vaguely recall there being some. I know you get more into that realm, so maybe you know better than I do. But I just, as you were mentioning, I just recall tomorrow is September 11th, and we just had what I think could very well. I mean, time will tell by the time this especially hits the public in a couple weeks from now, as opposed to the patrons. I mean, I've seen some people comparing this to a Reichstag moment. And I think they're right. The only creepy part about it is when these people that I've been seeing a lot of these viral messages of, it's a Reichstag. Well, then they're taking and that means now we got to root out the commies and we got to do X, Y, and Z and this and that. And you're like, well, you're missing the point of the Reichstag. The Reichstag is, I mean, obviously I don't claim to be any historical scholar, but I know many of us, especially in our realm, think there may have been some chicanery afoot, perhaps some sort of false flag. And so to take now we must marshal in or usher in martial power because of this event, well, you're kind of taking the bait. And so I think that people are right. This might be a Reichstag moment, but unfortunately, not in the way of now we need to go attack our enemies. I'm almost a little bit concerned. I'm seeing that narrative take a little bit of feet at this moment too, to be honest. So I don't know. I guess I just threw a lot at you there, but we're in a weird, unique time. And I don't know, all this stuff kind of ties into it. So obviously I don't want to try to delve into speculation whatsoever because it's very early, but it's hard not to connect the themes.
Well, I mean, you have to see this. You talk a lot about kind of gladio and strategy of tension. And I think it has to be seen in that, but also is this kind of collective mind control stuff where they're ramping up the chaos for whatever reason. And it's actually happening worldwide. But this will really stoke the fire. So, but the Reichstag's another show.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
huge amount of problems with that.
Yeah,
Huge amount of problems with Vanderlubbe he's a patsy.
exactly.
So
That's what I was driving at. Which I have no love lost for commies. Don't get me wrong, but it's like also I've studied Gladio, and that was most of the time. It's just this low hanging fruit of the stupid conservatives will buy you if you buy it if you just go, oh, it's commies. Then they'll go, okay, cool, and they just kind of over and over again, oh, it's commies to justify their evil. And just because they're commies doesn't mean you can do evil to them. I don't know. But yeah, sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off. There's a lot going through my mind at this given point in time. So.
But yeah, I mean, I think that it is important to look at all these events. I don't know how this is going to play out. Clearly, the right is very angry. This guy was a liked person, and I mean, he was in a place where you could shoot him, which is really weird. But it's in the realm of these other shooters. These people are trying to get Trump. They're still trying to kill him. Like I don't even know. I know there's public assassins, but how many assassins haven't really been? Not all of them are actually divulged. There was another one that was caught by the Secret Service in D.C., and I don't think we ever learned his name. Yeah. So this will reverberate, I think. And I think before you have these huge societal upheavals, there are steps to the Civil War. There were things that happened. Harper's Ferry, the Fort Sumter event. And so I think that this is like one of these ramp ups. Like this will be a watermark, or it'll be some kind of memory of like, okay, then Charlie Kirk got assassinated, shot in the neck, in a really gruesome way. Like it's very ugly stuff.
Yeah, I know a lot of people might be mad at me. Some stuff is that I genuinely am like this is all. I'm like, this is wild. This is not good. It's really sad. Obviously, I do think I definitely have my issues, and I've said these, had despicable takes on some things. But at the end of the day, he, like you said before, he's never done any violence to anyone. I mean, he might advocate for some in sometimes certain situations where I disagree with it, but it's just words. If anything, I would never want any violence to come to him, because if anything, for me, who has disagreed with some of his takes, it's counter to what I want. That's going to make him a martyr and kind of lionize a lot of his beliefs. I mean, some of which I obviously would like that those things get lionized, but there are obviously things that I don't. But point being is, it's just what a weird time. We are entering the years of lead, is what it seems like. But yeah, it's just tragic. It's just tragic. I mean, it is scary to see us going in this I don't know, this direction. It's very weird. We crossed a odd doorway here, and I don't like it.
Yeah,
but,
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. But it goes back. So I think that the Manchurian Candidate. I mean, you mentioned numerology. The book itself and the film are full of numerology. They really are remarkable in that sense. Like, and this was suppressed. The film was suppressed for 25 years. Yeah. It was released in 1962 before the JFK assassination in November of 1963. And one of the interesting things about the background, and one thing is why I bring it up, and it's an important cultural artifact, and kind of like for parapolitics as well, for an innumerable amount of reasons. But it was made with the kind of oversight and interest of JFK himself. So he was very close friends with Frank Sinatra, who was kind of the producer. He was kind of the kingpin to get the project done.
Now, on that,
bought the rights.
Real quick, I've heard this before. Now, this was a book prior, right? Well, this was a book that they then adapted.
Richard Condon book.
Yeah, Richard Condon book.
See that? Yeah. If you bring it up on the slide, you'll see the cover.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
That's the movie, and then here's the slides. I mean, that's Crooks, Ruth. This I made a couple days ago before this assassination. Yeah. Holmes, Chapman, Hinckley, Livelsberger, Jabbar. There's the movie cover. This is the book cover. So, and that's Richard Condon right there. So 59, and there's direct quotes from the book in the film. So he put this book out, and there's tons of 11s and things like that. So 9/11, this master number.
So this was 59, and then the first movie was in the 60s, right? What was it, early 60s? I'm just trying to get
released in I think it was November of 1962.
Okay, I'm only asking because it's like I'm trying to get a grasp, because I mean, obviously I'm getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but there's a lot of spooky, weird connection type stuff. They're like, how could you almost even know this? And then knowing that's a movie based off a book, you're like, well, did they change some things? How far was it? And it sounds like only a few years prior, so I guess it makes it easier for, like, if it was decades prior, it becomes far more spooky of how did all these weird occurrences seem to line up, which we'll get into a bit. But I just want to be clear on that. So it's only a few years difference, so it's not some like
It's 1 year
classic
difference.
book.
It's
Yeah,
1 year difference.
Yeah.
1 year difference between the release of the book and the JFK assassination.
Okay, there you go. And so, so there was a release. All right, now that's a good way to match. So I'm assuming then yes, that's right. Then it gets released after it. So that's a good way to conceptualize the timeline. The book's written, and then the assassination happens about a year later, and then a year and some change later after that, the movie comes out. There you go. Right.
The movie was released in 1962.
Yeah. So
the book is released in 1959, and the assassination of JFK. Supposedly, what the public was told was he was assassinated by a lone communist nut, Lee Harvey Oswald, on November 22nd, 1963.
Mm-hmm.
It's pure hogwash. It's pure nonsense. But one of the interesting things and the overlapping things of the book and the movie is this concept of this Manchurian, this somebody who's created as a patsy, created as an assassin, and moved into place to assassinate a political figure. So it's a political assassination is kind of the key element. And that's what ties into these modern events. These are political assassinations. So the Manchurian Candidate is kind of like a template. If you read it, Condon is very bright. He had a lot of great classical illusions. He's a smart writer. His frame of reference is good. But he also knew for some reason, he was able to distill a lot of the mind control, MK Ultra, and other things that were happening in the 50s and seed it into his book. So even though it's fiction, it reads like fact. And he has characters that portray, it's almost like, what's the guy who wrote Jurassic Park or whatever? Those books have like a lot of science fact in them, even though they're fiction. So I think that Condon's writing is like that. He has that capacity to put it in there. So he has a character by the name of Yen Lo, who literally is telling these like people, like it's incredible. He like relates how he's inducing them into kind of a hypnotic state. And I can either bring up some videos or some. Let me see if I can find my PDFs.
Yeah, if you get a video, we can bring that up. Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable in all this. I have like a Hypno Oswald thing too. We can go into that.
Yeah,
just because we're coming.
And obviously I'm getting some fairy vibes as well. Hypnotism was very much in vogue during this period of time, for sure.
There was a lot of like public like things, like even at Jack Ruby's club, they had not an amateur, but kind of like an entertainer hypnotism who would hypnotize people if they came in. So
one of the actually I think maybe it was either one or two of the Dutroux victims were supposed. I want to say it's two, but I don't know for sure. At least one of them. If it's two, they were kidnapped together, but they had just gone to see a hypnotist just prior before getting kidnapped, and I thought that was some sort of hypnotist show of some sort. But I just thought that hypnotism and this go hand in hand. Hell, I even just recently some of my OKC content I was covering about how they were hypnotizing witnesses for like possible John Doe 2 people, and you're like, well, are you necessarily trying to get down to the truth there, or are you trying to obscure it? So, it comes up a lot for many different reasons, and many of which are more sinister than others.
Yeah, it comes up a lot. It actually comes up in the JFK event. One of the main handlers of Oswald is this defrocked priest who likes boys. He likes teen boys. That's his thing. He's gay.
Yeah, fairy. That's what I was mentioning. So this gives me fairy vibes already. Is what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. But it's interesting how close it reflects this book, like the information that's in this book.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned symbolism. I know with fairy, there's very much a lot of like Catholic and religious symbolism. Isn't that seeded somewhat throughout the book? Isn't there a character that kind of fills a similar role, or am I remembering that incorrectly?
David Ferry was a defrocked Catholic priest, but he couldn't get back in. Mm-hmm. So he joined something. This is like a non-aligned Catholic church, fake Catholic called the
an inversion, if you will,
Catholic, where he could wear his stuff. He could wear his clothes, or he could wear his things but he couldn't be a Catholic priest anymore. So like, yeah, let me see if I can find these.
Was there ever anything that implied he's a Knights of Malta? I mean, I know I know it's a reach. I don't think there was, but I didn't know if maybe there was something you knew, because I know the circles he swam in. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some Malta connections, because he was kind of swimming in that weird, dark inverse of Catholicism. Of I don't know what exactly he was doing, but he was doing some weird dark stuff. And it seemed to involve his faith. This kind of where people get the concepts of things like black masses and stuff. You're like, that makes you think of the fairies of the world.
He did satanic rituals there. So he's an outwardly a Christian, but he's doing hypnotic things involving... Garrison called Ferry one of the most important people who ever lived because of his involvement in the assassination. And he's featured by Joe Pesci in the film JFK, if you remember.
Yeah, I can't say I ever watched that one, but...
Yeah, it's worth your time. I mean, it's a good overview of the thing. If you pull up this video, I'll go over this video with you. These are the Illuminati in numbers, or the occult numerology, or the esoteric numerology that's in this book. That's also in 9/11, which is tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
9/11.
What is the significance of 11? What was the symbolism of that? Do you know?
The numerology, the importance of 11, it's a prime number in magic for a variety of reasons. It just pops up all the time, and it's actually integrated into our common culture. Very common culture, actually. But it goes all the way back to the Golden Dawn and the idea of numbers having power. And 11 was kind of seen as a pernicious number. And it's in this kind of this group called the Golden Dawn. They had this main guy who wrote a book about it, but then Crowley adopted it, and it's in his book of the law, and it kind of became his prime number, the number of magic, but also the number of the New World Order. And so it's really in the occult or the secret societies, it's kind of stayed along as the 11. The reason that it's important in magic is that it's the coming together of the pentagram and hexagram, or the macrocosm and microcosm. The 6 and the 5 come together. So when you see people's names like a 6 and a 5, they're kind of like Tyler Durden or Harry Potter. These are all intentional. They're 11-letter words. They're telling you they're magic. And I think that what Condon is portraying in the book to to people who are in the know, who know the secret society stuff, that this kind of post-hypnotic suggestion and these type of things are a magical act. They're basically doing some kind of magical thing. But in the book, I mean, this is total spoiler alert. In the book and the movie, the whole arc of the movie is that Raymond Shaw is the son of a senator, and his mother is the wife of the senator. Her name is Eleanor Iselin, and she's played by Angela Lansbury, and they're based on Cohn, like Roy Cohn, who is Trump's kind of consigliere. Like literally, Condon writes it in the intro to the book.
Make nothing of this, people.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And she's like seen in some like writings as one of the top 25 villains in Hollywood history. And the Manchurian Candidate movie, the original one in 1962, was also in AFI's top 100 American movies of all time in the 90s. It dropped out, but at one point it was considered one of the best movies ever made, which I think is true. I think it is accurate. Which
is crazy, because it did not. It's well known for not doing well, but it's kind of not necessarily its own fault. It's the fault of the JFK assassination and kind of the dark shadow that was cast upon it, and because of it's pretty over the top in what it is. But yeah, go on.
Sinatra pulled it because of the JFK assassination and his close personal friendship with JFK. But anyway, the troop in the Korean War, which took place from 50 to 53. There's a troop that goes into Manchuria, which is the Chinese kind of state or area above Korea. They're taken there and they're hypnotized. And there's 11 men. So like they're portraying to you 11. But then Raymond Shaw is handled and brought back to the U.S. and put into place at Madison Square Garden. And he kills other people before he gets into place. But he's basically going to kill somebody for political purposes at the nominating convention. So he's actually going to like facilitate the entrance into power of his stepfather. And there's really dark stuff in this. There's like the mother is having incest with her dad. And the suggestion is that Raymond Shaw is the product of incest. And she has in the book, she has sex with her son. So, but they don't show it in the movie, so it's not
Yeah.
as obvious. The minds of 11 Americans when they're reporting at 11 o'clock all this time, going to bed at 11. Raymond Shaw is there's a 9/11 in this. 911 names are stricken from the list. So, like, this guy knows the power numbers. He knows the occult numbers. And also, when they're inducing these people into hypnotic states, he has all this stuff for 11 hours and stuff like that. So he understands. He's implying to you that these are magical events.
This might be a stupid observation, but it was made me realize, especially too with some of like the weird code stuff that's come out with like the Epstein stuff, which is how convenient AI must be for code these days. Like especially with numerology, can you imagine trying to insert code into all your stuff and be just I don't know, throw some numbers in here occasionally. AI would help a lot. I know it's a stupid commentary, but also at the same time, there is to some extent. I think AI actually probably is helping out the elite to whatever they have next, but probably not so. Yeah, so they already have the
data mine. You know, the AI is data crunching numbers like you wouldn't believe. So like the pre-crime stuff of Philip K. Dick is now real because they can tell what you're talking about with your friends or your wife or what you're researching. You know.
Well, that's what they were talking about with this. That was one of the angles a lot of people have gone with the Palantirs, or not with Palantir, but with the recent Minnesota shooting. That there's like this new Palantir, essentially pushing this new product in the aftermath, essentially of a prediction, some sort of algorithm type thing. So we are in that creepy Minority Report that for me at least, when I was in high school, I remember watching these movies. Be like, oh, that's wild. That'll be like 100 years from now. Well, we're kind of basically there. So.
We're past that. I think Palantir is working with like the department. They have contracts with a lot of NSA and DARPA, I think, and so you don't really know what they're doing behind the scenes. I know DARPA was heavily involved in the COVID rollout and a lot of different things like Facebook. So the sophisticated like Facebook, I wouldn't even go on there. You're crazy if you have that. For me, like Facebook is such a clown show. I can't even believe anybody's on there. Like, I mean, if you know Zuckerberg and LifeLog and all that other stuff. Anyway, at this key point, they keep having this dream, and this is kind of an important thing you see with people who've been tampered with mentally is their dream states and their reality states are intertwined in a way that aren't normal, like normal people do. Like they don't have those barriers between waking states. So Marco Sinatra plays Marco, and at 3:11, he has this recurring dream of himself with these like old ladies. But what it is the dream of how these guys are being hypnotized or brainwashed, and he has it, and he starts beginning to share it with his friends. But it's interesting here. And then here's the 77. So one of the main characters is one of 77 Medal of Honor winners.
I have noticed lots of divisible by 11 stuff.
For valor, the Congressional Medal of Honor. In the Korean War, with 5,720,000 personnel engaged, only 77 men were so honored.
When I get married to my old lady,
This is a key sequence. It's really interesting because this is the main character who's been tampered with, who's the assassin. It's Raymond Shaw. His real name, his actor's name is Lawrence Harvey. And he goes into a bar and plays solitaire. Solitaire is kind of the key component where he gets his trigger, which is the Queen of Diamonds. So you see the Queen of Diamond motif all throughout the film and the publications and the covers and stuff like that. But if you listen in the background, the bartender is suggesting stuff, but he says 11 long years, and then the trigger happens, and then Lawrence Harvey goes and jumps in the lake. But listen to the background conversation.
got no idea that this guy comes in the same package, that it's a package deal, and for 11 long years, I got this crumb tied around my neck. And believe me, it's no bargain. You've got no idea what kind of a problem I got with this guy.
Sorry I'm late, kid. Got held up in traffic, you know.
Again. So I says to him, please do me a favor, will you? Why don't you go and take yourself a cab and go up to Central Park and go jump in the lake?
So he pulls that Queen of Diamonds. The bartender's talking in the background. He says, go get a cab and jump in the lake in Central Park. And so some of these early documents, even Austin has mentioned this in other shows. Some of these early artichoke documents and things like that. The information that's in there is in this kind of stuff where you can trigger somebody through the phone, which is in this movie, and also you can kind of do highly suggestive states through symbols. So then he goes off.
Raymond, I don't know why yours is the only apartment in New York City without an air conditioner. You know, sometimes I think you came to us for another century. Chu Chin Chow, or whatever your name is. The steaks are to be broiled for exactly 11 minutes, no more, no less, on each side in a preheated grill at 400 degrees.
Yes, ma'am.
So she wants her steaks done at 11. So then he's playing around. These are all in the book too. It's actually really something else.
Huh.
But the fact that these numbers are there, anyway, it kind of keys into these other. We can go through the slides.
An obvious parallel, Sirhan with the the polka dot dress. I believe there was
Radio Man.
Yeah, there was
supposedly she walked him in there.
Yeah, and like give him a brush, some sort of weird touch. I think of some sort is what I recall.
She touched his elbow. She pinched his elbow, and then he went into a stance.
That's right. Yeah, pinch elbow sounds right. Because I remember some sort of weird. Because it's these weird different things. Like for that one, it's 11, a Queen of Diamonds. I'm sure maybe there's some other tell in there. Maybe we missed, but a combination of unique things. For example, a pinch on the elbow, a lady in a polka dot dress. These are very unique things, and I guess if they are able to program your subconscious enough, they can do something with that.
What you do, like I've done a lot of reading in a lot of these mind control documents, and there's actually a scale. It's called the Stanford Hypnotism scale where they test people for it's kind of a pre-existing condition based on a lot of personality traits. And some people are highly suggestible and hypnotizable, and some people you cannot. You can just talk to them, and they'll just be like, "What are you trying to do? You're going to go into a deeper state," and they'll just be like, "Shut up." They don't fall for it. They're not induced into this deeper state of consciousness. Sirhan was they found the right subject. He was definitely a highly hypnotizable subject, and he would do all kinds of weird stuff. He was in conversation with some guy named Radio Man, and he was an amateur radio guy. He was also an occultist. Like he's literally hanging out with famous occultist Manly P. Hall. And there's rumors that he is, according to one researcher, he's party at the Cielo house.
Yeah.
Before the Manson killings.
Sirhan, it wasn't Austin. I think he showed you. Didn't he show you that photo you found of supposedly Sirhan with one of the people in the cupboard or something? I think that from before, and it looks just like them. I swear. If not, next time you talk to him, he has it somewhere. He found a photo. I think it might have been in like Time or something of them together, and it's pretty clearly him. Obviously, maybe it's some other guy looks just like him, but yeah, I mean, obviously there's a Rosicrucianist connections, but these. I mean, it's the
ancient mysterious order of the Rosy Cross that he was taking, like, mail order classes from. These guys know a lot of these techniques too. And what you see about this film that's reflected in reality is this kind of concept of an operator or handler. So a lot of these guys, like, they're not looked into. A lot of these assassins, modern ones, they don't look into who's walking around. Like Chapman, we know, was handled by like 10 people. Oswald, Sirhan has tons of doctors. He's in and out of the hospital. Like, these are overt and obvious, but it's reflected in this thing because in the film and book Manchurian Candidate, because Raymond Shaw, he's taken through to the Soviet or Iron Bloc or whatever, the communist bloc, then out to the U.S. and placed to the assassin. What does Oswald do? He's at Sugi Air Force Base, which we know were doing heavy-duty LSD experiments. Like, they weren't just like dosing people with micrograms. They would give them freaking massive doses, like 1,000 times over the thing, and study them and do horrible stuff. And while Oswald was there, he was in the hospital for a venereal disease. He had money that he shouldn't have had for his rank in the military. He was going and like whining and dining at some of the nicer bars. For people who don't know, Atsugi is an Air Force base in the suburbs of Tokyo. So he's in downtown Tokyo. And a lot of these guys, they shipped off a lot of these experiments to universities, state hospitals, and also out of the country, so they didn't have any oversight. Atsugi, we know for a fact that Atsugi was dosing LSD because there's a paper in some of these recent releases where Dulles, after Olson was thrown out of a window, the cover story is he committed suicide. But Frank Olson was kind of a whistleblower in 1953. He's like, what are you guys doing? Is this moral? Blah, blah, blah. Well, we're kicking you out of the freaking, window. After he died, there was a paper that was sent saying, cease all LSD experimentation at Atsugi. And it was signed by Alan Dulles. And that's one of the components of the JFK assassination that isn't integrated. A lot of these people didn't make that tie when they're looking into JFK about the Knights of Malta, because there's Knights of Malta around, and also the MK Ultra stuff. They don't see the pieces of it.
Did you take that down, or did that just come down on its own? I didn't mean to. If so,
I took it down.
Okay, just making sure, because StreamYard has been doing weird things lately. But I did have to mention,
Me too.
I popped over to another thing. I looked up something real quick, came back, it was down. I just want to make sure that wasn't something I did. I was actually looking up because I couldn't remember the name of the guy, and I didn't want to butcher it. But Kerry Thornley isn't Japan where he met Kerry Thornley? I don't know why I always want to call it like a Crowley
Kerry
for some
Thornley,
reason.
and it's one of these weird things about Oswald, him being monitored.
Yeah, and I'm honing in on the Japan thing because I didn't put those two things together. I've known about like kind of both those, but I didn't put two and two together that I think he met him there, and you got all these weird experiments going on at the same time. But go on, sorry.
Kerry Thornley would go on to say that he had an implant.
Yeah.
He was tampered with. He was also a Discordian, so you kind of have to take him with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. But he says that he was monitored too, and people were like they knew him, like they knew Oswald. Like Oswald had weird things show up in his life. Kerry Thornley is one of them. So this kind of sophisticated guy is in this, in the military with Oswald, and writes like a book called The Idle Warriors that involves Oswald before the shooting, before 1963. And while he's in Soviet Union, Oswald is going, like they have documents now that came out. Jefferson Morley found them. And the documents came out, and they are that Oswald's meeting with CIA attachés in Moscow. Like, what are you doing? Something weird is going on with Oswald. He also was in a hospital at Minsk. They're also doing heavy-duty experimentation. They're also involved. Like, the rivalry is real. Yeah. The Cold War is happening, but they're also both doing experimentation. So what's Oswald doing there for 18 months?
Yeah, wasn't Thornley? Didn't he have weird processing connections as well? Yeah. I don't know if you've dug like he spooked out. Yeah.
Robert Anton Wilson is his buddy. Like all these, he's in this Discordian religion, which is like the whole idea is to create chaos.
It reminds me of when I dug into Discordianism. It reminds me of my little bit of dig into Temple of Set. It sounds very much like coded language, some sort of weird infrastructure at play. It sounds like probably not really what it's claiming to be. Yeah, it's like
names, the whole bit.
Some sort of weird mailing list for some sort of weird spooked out something or other is what it seems like.
They're all occult adjacent.
Yeah.
They're all. Robert Anton Wilson had a lot of very strange friends. He was like one of the main Discordians, but he wrote the Illuminatus trilogy, and his friends were like incredible, man. Like he's friends with Genesis B. Orridge and knows everything about Crowley and really scary stuff. Like he was in Santa Cruz during all these murders and just really crazy things. Like, but he's friends with Kerry Thornley after the death of JFK. Kerry Thornley writes a book, but while Oswald is in Russia, there's a woman named Macmillan, and she ends up changing her name. But there's like a report she makes about meeting Oswald and Marina, and this is before the assassination as well. And she ends up writing a book called Marina and Lee. It's like freaking a huge research piece. It's like 400 or 500 pages. What do they find out about her? She's a full CIA agent on the payroll. So this book is out there, like it's going around. It tells the story of Oswald being a communist and how he had secret anger and all this other stuff. But it turns out she's handling them, and she meets them when they come back to the U.S. too.
Wait, that's not Ruth Payne, is it? Right?
No, we can get there.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, wait. I know I'm hazy. I was like, I don't think that's Ruth's story. I'm
telling you, Oswald had like 10 handlers. He had, or people who knew him before the thing. Kerry Thornley goes on to be famous. Macmillan's a CIA spy. spy. Demorin Schilt, white Russian, ends up in becoming friends with de Bouvier, like JFK's wife, while they're in New York, and then ends up in Dallas, and then gets to meet Oswald, and then he introduces Oswald to Payne, who gets Oswald a job at the book depository. You can't write this stuff. I mean, it's really incredible. And Payne just recently died within the last week, and there's
William, they did write that stuff.
It's like a fiction. I mean, there's a very good book I would recommend. I mean, a movie by Max Good called The Assassination of Miss Payne. And it shows her background and what she did when she took Oswald to Irving, Texas, outside of Dallas. That there's a house there that you can actually bring up right now that they've turned into a museum because of its import, and it's totally fake. If you know the truth about the JFK assassination, you have to see the book depository and Ruth Payne's house is just complete plastic Disneyland fabrications that sustain the cover story that Oswald did it.
So Ruth Payne's home, you said people should look at? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look it up. Look up Ruth Payne's home, Irving, Texas. There's a website.
All right, let me see. See if what this. I gotta see what. I mean, I don't know if there's something you want to hone in on it. Let me know if.
Well, what the point is that they can make stuff up. This is the whole story. This is where they supposedly found the rifle of Oswald, even though Oswald wasn't living there. He was separated from his wife. Maureen is close to her. Here's the interesting thing about Ruth Payne. She has a background. She is part of a very wealthy family. The Paynes are Eastern elites. What's she doing in Texas? And in the movie of Max Good, which I recommend, go watch it, Ruth Payne in the Assassination. They show her take this trajectory. They follow her back east. She ends up at some island, where the Wrigleys own the island. She drives south. She ends up in New Orleans. She literally picks up Oswald and drives him to Irving, Texas, and gets him a job at the school book depository. So he's being watched over the whole time. David Ferry, one of the core elements of the Garrison criminal trial against Clay Shaw, Knights of Malta, also Dulles, Knights of Malta. One of the key elements was to establish this nexus between Shaw, Bannister, Ferry, and Oswald. He was trying to put them together. They said they didn't know each other and all this. Total baloney. And Ferry knew Marcello, who RFK had sent out of the country. So Marcello was pissed. He's a really hardcore mob boss in a very shady town, man. I don't know if you've been to New Orleans, but you talk about corruption. He has a grudge. He has a total grudge. On the day of the assassination, Ferry's actually in court with Marcello for some reason. He's in and out of court because he had a problem. He had this fetish for teenage boys, and it got brought up in his career against Eastern Airlines. He was a major pilot. He was literally a captain of transporting hundreds of people on flights. Like you would see
he was a commercial airline pilot, I think, right?
Yeah. It was, in addition to other stuff. The guy was a real adventurer because he was running guns. And Daniel Hopsiker wrote a book called Barry and the Boys about Barry Seal. And he says that both Ferry and Barry Seal were not CIA, contractors. They were full agents. And I believe that. I think Shaw was too. He was either under the employ. Shaw's background is really incredible. He was, and this is left out of a lot of researchers, but he worked as an aide-de-camp for a heavy-duty general named Thrasher, who was overseeing Operation Overlord, which is the invasion of Europe in June 1944. And he was awarded, he was gay, but he had all these other awards as a effective, he was a major, he was an effective member of the military. I don't know what his deal was, but he rose up the ranks as a smart guy. He was a smart guy.
Who's Ferry or
no, that's Shaw.
Shaw. I'm like,
Clay
okay,
Shaw,
right,
and that's who Garrison went after. And then Shaw countersued him for defamation. And there was all these cases. They really harassed the crap out of Garrison. And I think Clay Shaw died in 1975. And Ferry mysteriously died once Garrison took up the criminal case against Shaw. And there's pictures of Shaw being cuffed and stuff like that. and then Ferry, mysteriously died, but he didn't get popped. But anyway, the rumor is, and it's never been proved, we know that Ferry went to some place in Houston on the day of the assassination, and the rumor is that the assassination squads were driven south, put in planes, and flown to Mexico, and exfiltrated out of the country with the help of Ferry.
Yeah, because it's usually presumed either Ferry or Barry, I think, had some sort of help in getting him to and from or something like that. Yeah, that's, I believe, what's usually
weird
surmised,
too, because like these guys have this really shady background, but they're both commercial air pilots, and they're both coming out of CAP, right? Which is kind of a pseudo Gladio like stay behind network thing. And there's a famous picture of Ferry with Oswald at CAP in like 1955. So Ferry knows Oswald very well for 8 years. Like, it's really incredible stuff.
Yeah, it is weird looking back at the civilian air patrol and like looking at it. It's weird. It still exists. I really don't even understand. I didn't even know it was a thing. I remember they showed up when I was in the military, Air Force. They showed up to a few like of the air shows that they would force us to help us, and it was just, I didn't even know it was a thing. But apparently, it's some sort of civilian air force of some sort. But I think it was kind of born out of that World War II post World War II mania. So it's like it does glows like Gladio.
It has that Gladio-esque. It's not a formal thing, but it has that. There's a lot of generals behind it, and it's almost like an elevated Boy Scouts. Like they were finding young people to learn how to fly. That was it, to bring them up. And Seal was one of them. Seal was a great pilot. There's absolutely no question about it. And it's a side story of this. He was part of the CAP, I think, in Baton Rouge, where these guys were New Orleans. So it's like one city over, but still Louisiana. It's Barry Adler Seal. So these guys have this crazy background. Shaw, Ferry, Seal, DeMorenschildt, McMillan, Thornley. And then one of the other crazy things that a lot of people oversee, I think it's shaped this way, is not to bring it up, but like Dulles was big time in the war. So he was, you talked about the Reichstag fire.
Yeah.
Well, Dulles was in Switzerland as the kind of OSS attaché. He was a spy. And he was also a white shoe lawyer. Like, he's a very interesting guy. I don't think he's a good person at all. His nickname was the Shark. Like, that's how they saw him, like an emotionalist killer type. But he was in Switzerland, and he was running these agents. So he had connections and all this stuff. And he was actually involved in paper clipping and post-war stuff. And this guy that they had who was they were trying to get rid of Hitler. And it's called, we know it as Operation Valkyrie, but it was the June 1944 plot where they tried to blow up Hitler, but he survived. That was a lot of stuff. He was behind that. Dulles was involved in that with this guy. It's kind of lost to history. His name is Javisius, I think was his name. And he actually fingered a lot of people for Nuremberg trial and getting hung. He was a real... He would sell out his own people for whatever. Like, he was a interesting guy. Anyway,
Dulles is super notable for scurrying people out of the rat lines too. So I know the Gladio connections. People like to make the through line from the Nazis to there. It's kind of everything kind of plays out there. I mean, hell, even the mind control, Manchurian candidate aspect of this, we can even pull the timeline back further to essentially the Nazis prior to World War II.
Right,
so
very good, absolutely. They were involved in a lot of mescaline operations, LSD. They were involved in these secret documents. After the war, one of the strange things is that Hess, if you remember, tried to take this flight in 1941. This strange flight, number 3 Nazi, like the third most powerful person in Germany, gets on a Messerschmitt and flies to northern Scotland to try to negotiate a treaty with the Brits to keep them out of the war. And it's a ruse. It's actually set up in part, I think, by Ian Fleming, believe it or not, who spoke fluent German and like knew astrology. And so he like set up the fake astrology to make Hess believe these astrological signs were right, and got him on a plane to go there. And then Aleister Crowley, sends a letter to Ian Fleming's boss and says, hey, if you want me to interrogate this guy, let me know. I know everything about the occult. Talk to JFC Fuller and all this stuff. It's actually in the records. It's actually an interesting footnote to history. It never happened, as far as I know. But one of the other things, not only Crowley wanted to do the interrogation, who does Dulles get to bring and do the interrogation of Hess and try to figure out if he's saying or not, if he's lying? None other than Ewan Cameron, the notorious like death doctor from McGill. So like this guy was brought in like by Dulles. Dulles was friends with Ewan Cameron. And at that time, he had this lover, Dulles did, who was friends with Ruth Payne. Her name is Bancroft. And they were friends in the 30s. So there's a direct tie between Dulles and Ruth Payne. And it's through this woman, Bancroft, who then went on to be friends with Luce. And it's an incredible tie because nobody brings up this Bancroft woman whose autobiography is signed, and she talks about Dulles and his personality and all that stuff. And her autobiography is called The Autobiography of a Spy, and she's best friends with Ruth Payne. And so, like, this is like, so you can see this whole how ornate and how sophisticated the conspiracy against JFK was. Like, these were big type players who were really wanted to see him dead. And then you see some of the sophistication reflected in these more recent assassinations. Like, you don't know about some of these people. You don't know who the real shooter is. Yeah. I don't even think Oswald was the real shooter. He was supposed to die.
Not. Yeah.
He was supposed to get killed on the day of the Friday the 22nd. I think he was supposed to get killed leaving to the book depository and going back to his place, and then they were going to supposedly a hero, and I think it was bungled. And then they bungled trying to kill him at the Texas film theater where he went to next. And the shot went off and it didn't kill him. And so then they got really nervous. And like, I think Ruby was assigned like, hey, bro, you got to do this. You got to take one for the team.
All right. Well, I think we'll probably bring this in for a landing, but I do have one last question, and I guess if there's anything else you want to go into, I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are, because, you know, when we started, the question I kind of asked is try to get a solid timeline, because it still racks my head just kind of trying to conceptualize what the fuck even happened here, really, because we have, you know, like I went over the timeline. You have the 59 book, and then like 60ish she died, but we have we have JFK really pushing this too. So you're like, what happened here? Is this like obviously we don't know, but I just kind of like, what do you make of all? Because it's like, is this guy like trying to use the film to tell the world about what's going on, and then there was some double take of the powers that be go, well, haha, screw you, now we're gonna use this to write the tale of your death. Like, I don't know, just very bizarre. Just exactly. What is going on here?
I think you're onto it. Like, I think that he was supporting films in the culture that reflected information he was aware of and that he wanted publicized. So not only, one of the interesting things about John Frankenheimer, so it was JFK, Sinatra hires Frankenheimer, gets these great actors. Frankenheimer, after he's done with Manchurian Candidate, he then goes on to another film that was supported. Frankenheimer's a left-winger. He's a Democrat, like a diehard Democrat. He goes on to another film called 7 Days in May, which is about the overthrow of the United States government by a military coup. And so I think, and actually JFK wanted that film done, and then he actually took a weekend off away, I think, from the White House, so that Frankenheimer could bring in Kirk Douglas and film at the White House. So I think that film ended up being released in January of 1964 with Dr. Strangelove. So I think all those things were percolating in the Cold War, nuclear fear, mind control. It's a very heady environment. But I think that JFK, much like these other politicians that we generally don't see, like, I don't think most people know JFK's involvement in films getting made, much like other presidents or other assets or CIA. It's coming more and more to the forefront. But I think he's trying to juice the culture with information and concepts that he saw in his thing. Like, I don't know if he sat down and looked at all the mind control stuff that they were up to, but he had to have access to it as a president or been aware of it. He knew about Operation Northwood, so he knew about false flags. He knew about the dangers of the CIA. He said things that got him in real trouble. Like, I want to destroy the CIA. Like, these guys are cold warriors, man. You're saying like things that are very incendiary. And RFK did the same thing. He said, I'm a revolutionary. And like, We can't have a revolutionary in the government. Like, come on, man. One of the interesting things, Frankenheimer's a key player in this whole story about the Manchurian Candidate as director, because he drove RFK to the ambassador on the night of the death in 1968. And while he was there, this is according to Ed Sanders, who wrote a lot about Manson family. He wrote a book called The Family. But Ed Sanders tells the tale that while Frankenheimer is at the ambassador, which is torn down, of course. They always tear down like the crime scenes. While he's at the ambassador, Sirhan walks by him and brushes into him. And Frankenheimer, after the event, he's like, did what I do fictionally really turn into fact? And I think the answer is yes.
Well, this is a weird world we're in. I appreciate you joining me today, William. If let people know where they can find you. Any final closing thoughts? If you have anything else to drop, but otherwise, let people know where they can find you. I appreciate you joining us. I mean, we could probably pick away at all sorts of different ways to comment on this topic, but I don't know. I'm still reeling from today's news, and it is like I don't know. I don't want to over attack it, but yeah, this is an interesting component. Actually, one thing I did want to hone in real quick, it's not even a question, but from the perspective of him telling, kind of revealing the truth, keep in mind kind of, as you describe the plot here somewhat, it's like this guy is the son of a senator, or a senator's wife is senator, and like there's kind of this weird sexual backdrop of, clearly brainwashing. And so it's almost like if you've been following this show for a while, and probably your show as well, the sort of theses that we've developed over what the hell is going on in the upper echelons of the elite, I think we're kind of seeing that perhaps with what JFK was telling us there, possibly. So, I mean, so if you look at it from his perspective, I think he may have been to some extent telling us of a lived experience. So, and I think his family was, kind of somewhat newer money, if I recall correctly. So perhaps maybe it was they were new in the whatever that hell that network is, that network of horror. Yeah. So, but anyways, I just thought it was interesting that it's like, I guess that would make sense from the perspective of a JFK or something. But I mean, with that, let people know where they can find you at. I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point, sometime soon. But yeah, appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I could do like 30 hours on this.
Yeah.
I just gave you the abridged view. But William Ramsey Investigates is the podcast. I got 5 books on Amazon, 5 books on my website, William Ramsey Investigates. You can buy signed copies there. And then my Patreon, I have 5 documentaries. And that's where I post stuff that I won't post on social media. So,
like I said, I appreciate you joining us. For those who want to support this show, leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can also follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose. If you want to support the show in the best way you can do that with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2, and with that, you get access to early episodes. I usually do 1 to 2 paywalled episodes a week, keep about 4 behind the paywall on a given time, just like this episode. You also get access to the ad-free RSS feed and to the Telegram, and you get access to pre-show, post-show, and video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead. And also, I give a big shout out to my sponsors. As a big thank you for everything they do. I have my previous co-host in Tower Gang at Learn to Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZLVRECK, at _Infazeal, Tim Tuttle, at Jolly Klebold, Willow Bells, Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine, big fan of the show, Torrin May, at Wayne Tychos, not Masad. Actually, no, I forgot that's supposed to be, because he likes the Fed Jacket, he changed it. It is now, God, what was the last book you covered? The Catcher in the Rye, and I'm sponsored by the Catcher in the Rye. And with that, we're out of here. Love you all. We'll see you on the next one.
Rip Charlie Kirk.
Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Obviously, we had disagreements, but geez Louise, did not deserve that. That is awful. But yeah, we're out of here. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.
When do you think